Gadenye wa aduri.
Twende chini.
Agashusha oduri ogadira.
Hallelujah.
Oduri akarogera Jesu. Nekyodera ina. Nedodore
Now from side side, very
moyo.
simple. To the left, to the right.
Wow.
To the left, to the right. To the left, to the right.
Nyabura.
Ongiona ginye togo como de nyoyo ne monene.
Ongiona ginyete go como de nyoyo ne monene.
Todiena bere.
Hanini.
Icpak forward, backward never.
Ne monene.
Haturudi nyuma.
Hanini. Hanini mo de nyoyo ne.
Now to the side.
monene.
Upande na upande.
Hanini. Hanini mo de nyoyo ne moy.
Loina merere.
Oye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Well done, Kayemba, Africa. We may kindly take our seats. Thank you, influencers. We really appreciate and celebrate every one of you. Now we are set, alert. We are ready to kick off. Let's have this image once again, even as we kick off. Nature shows us that our very DNA is built for influence. And so as we started, we're saying you are an influencer. Bold, regardless of where you are, regardless of what you left at home. And today is a wake-up call for us to look into the future with that boldness, creating a future for generations to come. And as we ponder on that, we want to make it clear that you are safe here at Sarova and Pride Inn as well. And so, briefly, I'd kindly call upon the General Manager, Sarova. Please affirm to us that we are safe, we are welcomed, and ready to be prepared for the journey ahead. A big round of applause for the General Manager. This is Sarova Pride Inn. You will also be guided, briefly please, for just 2 minutes, on the vision of an eagle. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. Take to the stage, please. Talk to us.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to see you again. My name is Gordon Oduor. As I introduced, I'm not the general manager, but I'm the chief security officer. Thank you for the blessings. Welcome again. We really appreciate your support.
Good morning, everyone.
Sarova is getting better.
Good morning.
We are ready to host you for the entire week. I would like to take you through the security and health briefing. Where we are is Johari 1 and 2. On my right, we have both ladies and gents, just at the back. The same, on the left, we have the same setup. During your meeting, we do not intend to conduct any fire drill or any other drill. So in case you hear of any emergency alarms, kindly evacuate calmly without creating such stampede. We have our main assembly point at the front of the hotel on your left. If you know Baraza, that is the place. Where you are, you can also evacuate straight to the door. Then we have the assembly point right opposite the venue. Depends on the situation. Do not insist on going the same venues as mentioned. Situation dictates how you evacuate. So it might be different. So let's be prepared for those changes.
From the main gate, you could see the security screening to the beach area, all over
place,
the
we
compound,
have an
there
ambulance
is a security personnel,
medical
and we
emergencies,
do a policeman on patrol
evacuation and immediate
around the beach
attendance.
area and the whole
And also
compound
for
of the
guests who are staying
security
with us in
around.
your rooms, please make good use of your safe to secure your valuables. Also, in your room, we have got phones for emergency and any other inquiries. When in your room, kindly make good use of your people in case of strange visits. Then on transport, we encourage you to use hotel taxis or Uber. But kind request, if you can have them, pick you from our reception, where we have good coverage of cameras, so that details, we have them just in case. During your stay or your event, we discourage use of tuk-tuks. You are boarding with unknown people. They might be your next attackers. So if you intend to use tuk-tuks, please hire as a group that you are known to each other and your destination is well known to each other. Then during your stay also on the beach safety, beach walk is up to 10 p.m. And during such moments, kindly walk in pairs for safety reasons and also avoid carrying your valuables exposed along the beach. That's a public area, and we might not have 100% control over that area. And again, also on our pools, I know I learned swimming recently. You might be learning swimming today. So kindly observe safety when within our pools. Let's not learn and become the experts on the very day, as drowning cases can occur. Don't be an expert after learning. And also the beach access, there's flags warning. When it's red, we don't allow. We can view from the hotel, but we don't allow a guest or any other personnel to go to the beach for the sake of safety. At the moment, tides are really high, so we discourage that kind of behavior. We appreciate you so much and enjoy your event. Thank you for your time. We welcome you for this week. Let's make it. Thank you so much for being here.
Many thanks. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Asante sana. Pride in, if you can hear me, we are ready to kick off 6 minutes to the top of the hour. So we want to kick off in good time. Ready to learn. Ready to learn. Pride in, are we ready? Affirm so that we can kick off.
Yes, Pride in, we are ready. Elias is here, and we have our delegates here.
Thank you so much. I'd kindly request, distinguished delegates, let us be upstanding for the Kenya National Anthem and the East African Community Anthem. You may kindly take your seats as influencers. We want to celebrate all of you and welcome to the 43rd Annual Seminar, Edition 1. A big round of applause for our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba. We celebrate you. Of course, we also want to appreciate the Deputy Chief Justice, Vice President, Supreme Court of Kenya. And of course, the chairperson, chairman, a big round of applause for Icpak, the council members one by one as we appreciate them and kick off with the opening remarks. We want to celebrate this leadership. Once again, big round of applause for CPA Professor Elizabeth Kalunda, Chairman, and the council members. Thank you for your leadership. You are leading from the front. The National Vice Chairman, a big round of applause for him. You're leading with influence. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for the CEO. I want to appreciate Council Member, FCPA Professor Nicholas Letting, a big round of applause for him. FCPA Georgina Malombe, thank you so much for your leadership. FCPA Hesban Omolo, big round of applause for him as well. And we also have CPA Jane Washuka, a big round of applause for her. Of course, CPA Matthew Mokisu, big round of applause, please. CPA Olive Gitao, makofi tafadhali. CPA Wycliffe Bishanga, big round of applause, please. And of course, CPA Crispus Mbogo, a big round of applause. Welcome, welcome. And for our sponsors, makofi yao tafadhali. Thank you. Proud to be a CPA. The opening remarks.
She is a seasoned finance, strategy and governance expert serving as the CEO of Icpak. With extensive leadership experience across professional and corporate institutions, she is passionate about advancing the accounting profession, strengthening governance and driving strategic transformation. Please welcome CPA Dr. Grace Kamau.
Welcome to the 43rd annual seminar, the first edition. And I want to just make a few remarks before I hand it over to my chairman to run the rest of the program. But you can just say a high five to your neighbor and tell them, welcome to the 43rd annual seminar, first edition. Thank you very much. I am so impressed to see the hall almost full, considering the little challenge we had with transport. And we are grateful that we have made so much effort to be here, and also for those who are joining us virtually. So to our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanzania, a Pan-Africanist, author, and also as motivational speaker. To our Deputy Chief Justice, Honorable Lead Justice Philomena Mwilu, EGH, who will be joining us during the closing ceremony, who is the Deputy Chief Justice and the Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya. To our keynote speakers, the International Federation of Accountants President, Jean Buku, and the immediate former PAFA, or Pan-African Federation of Accountants President, CCFA, Madam Keto Kayemba. To the judiciary representatives in the hall, to FCPA Joyfrey Malombe, who is the Chair, Accountants Act Regulations Review Task Force, FCPA Dr. Julius Muya, CBS, the former PS Treasury and Public Sector Lead, Addison, to our Chairman, CPA Professor Elizabeth Kalunda, the Chairman of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, to our Vice Chairman, FCPA Bernard Amuka, the Vice Chairman, to the council members. We are full house in all the halls. All our council members are there, and I want to preserve that privilege to our chair, who will be introducing them one by one. We also have with us former chairmen who have joined us, We have leadership from our sister or our brother professional accountancy organization in East Africa, chief executive officers who will be joining us throughout this week, our branch leadership who have also joined us, our esteemed speakers, distinguished participants, FCPAs, our members or our colleagues in Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. I was reflecting on 43 years and I was wondering how many of us had decided the professional journey they would like to take. And to be honest, I believe very few of us were already in the profession. But today, we mark 43 years since we began the annual seminar journey, and therefore it gives me immense pleasure to be able to invite you and to welcome you to this first edition of the 43rd annual seminar, at a time where the global economy, leadership systems, and the transparency of the accountancy profession are going profound transformation. But before I proceed, allow me to warmly welcome our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, our keynote speakers, the Icpak president, Mr. Jean Bonku, and the immediate PAFA president, CPA Madam Keto Kayemba, leaders from government and industry, representatives from professional accountancy organizations, development partners, Icpak staff, all participants joining us here in Mombasa in the 3 rooms, both in Sarova and Pride Inn, and also those who are joining us virtually, and also our partners and sponsors that have been highlighted. This annual seminar, ladies and gentlemen, has become a respected regional platform where the profession, both regionally and globally, reflects, challenges, and re-energizes its role in shaping economic and institutional progress. And perhaps never before has this responsibility felt more important than it does today. I take cognizance that in recent weeks, actually in about 2 weeks, Kenya has once again affirmed its place as a continent's Center for Strategic Organizations on Africa's future, bringing together heads of states, investors, policymakers, innovators, and business leaders to reflect on the continent's economic direction, governance priorities, and competitiveness in a rapidly changing world during the Africa Forward Summit. One reality is becoming increasingly clear. Africa's next phase of growth will be defined by the strength of its institutions, the quality of its governance, and the credibility of the leadership systems. And that reality speaks directly to the accounting profession. Because long before economies expand, investors grow, or markets stabilize, there must first be trust in the system that governs financial decision-making. And therefore, fellow professionals, accountants are increasingly becoming the custodians of that trust. We must meet at a time when organizations across the world are facing simultaneous disruptions from technology, geopolitical uncertainty, sustainability pressures, evolving regulation, and rising public expectations around accountability. In such an environment, influence is no longer derived from position alone. It is derived from credibility, adaptability, ethical leadership, and the ability to guide institutions through uncertainty. And this is precisely why the theme of this year's seminar, Leading with Influence, Accountants as Architects of Organizational Growth and Transformation, which is both timely and necessary. And therefore, dear ladies and gentlemen, Kenya today remains one of Africa's most dynamic innovation and financial ecosystem. According to the Central Bank of Kenya, mobile money transaction exceeded the Kenya shilling 9 trillion mark in 2025, underscoring how rapidly digital finance continues to reshape commerce, taxation, banking, and public service delivery in the economy. At the same time, businesses and organizations are navigating a new reality shaped by artificial intelligence, automation, cybersecurity threats, digital compliance systems, and real-time financial reporting. Increasingly, digital transformation is no longer being treated as a technology conversation alone. It has become a governance conversation because the more digital economies become, the more important integrity, assurance, transparency, cybersecurity oversight, and the ethical leadership has become. This places accountants at the center of institutional resilience. And therefore, fellow accountants, Africa is steadily moving towards deeper economic integration through regional value chains and expanding cross-border investment ecosystem. This transition is increasing the need for harmonized standards, regulatory coherence, transparent reporting system, and stronger collaboration across institutions and jurisdictions. And this creates a defining opportunity for the accounting profession. And because regional integration cannot succeed without financial trust, governance, consistency, and professional cooperation across borders, at Icpak, we believe we have an important role to play in advancing professional mobility, regional partnerships, capacity development, and harmonization of the standards across the continent. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, sustainability and ESG considerations are also rapidly shaping global investment decisions. In many aspects, sustainability reporting is becoming the new language for investor confidence. And accountability, or accountants, will be among the key translators of this language. And therefore, as I come towards my concluding my remarks, fellow professionals, the pace of professional change continues to accelerate globally. The World Economic Forum's Future for Jobs report for 2025 identifies analytical thinking, AI literacy, resilience, leadership, and technological fluency among the fastest growing competencies in the modern workplace. At the same time, Icpak projects that AI-assisted finance systems and automation will significantly reshape audit, assurance, and financial management functions over the coming decade. This means the future accountants will require more than just technical expertise. The profession is now calling for individuals who can combine financial expertise with strategic thinking, digital awareness, ethical judgment, communication skills, and people-centered leadership. And this shift is especially important for our younger professionals. Africa remains the youngest continent in the world, with over 60% of its population below the age of 25. But demographics alone do not create prosperity. Skills do, leadership does, mentorship does, and integrity does. And this is why Icpak continues to invest in mentorship programs, future skills initiatives, digital capacity building, leadership development, and partnership with universities and professional training institutions, because the future of the profession will depend not only on how well we perceive standards, but on how intentionally we prepare the next generation to lead in a rapidly changing world. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, one truth is becoming increasingly evident across governments, markets, and institutions, that trust has become one of the most valuable currencies in modern economies. Where trust weakens, investors hesitate, institutions struggle, and public confidence is eroded. But where trust is protected, economies expand, innovations flourish, and societies become more resilient. And accountants remains at the center of trust ecosystem. We are not merely professional working within economic systems. We are among the people responsible for ensuring those systems remain credible, transparent, and sustainable. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, as I make my conclusion, as we begin this 43rd annual seminar, may we challenge ourselves to think beyond routine professional practices. May we think the kind of institutions we are helping to build, about the influence we carry in boardrooms, organizations, governments, and also communities, and recognize that in moments of uncertainties, professionals are not judged only by their technical competencies, but they are judged by the trust they inspire. Let this seminar, therefore, inspire us not only to adopt, to change, but to lead through change. Not only to respond to disruption, but to shape transformation with courage, integrity, and purpose. Allow me to conclude with a reflection that history rarely remembers institutions that had the most information. Rather, it remembers the institutions that societies trusted the most. I want to graciously thank our sponsors for their commitment to partnering with us throughout the years, and I want to urge all of us to make some time to stop at their booths to sample the solutions they offer, which cater to different facets of our lives. Thank you, and welcome to the 43rd Annual Seminar, first edition. And now, it is my distinct honor and privilege to invite our chairman, the chairman of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, CPA Professor Elizabeth Kalunda, to take the program from here. Thank you, and karibu, Chairman.
She is a distinguished finance professional, academic leader, and the 26th and 3rd female chairman of Icpak, an associate professor at USIU Africa and former acting deputy vice chancellor, finance and operations. She continues to shape professional standards, governance and financial innovation both in Kenya and internationally. She also serves as a board member of CASNIB, chairperson of the CASNIB Foundation, and non-executive director of Lofty Corbin Investments Limited, a leading Kenyan investment management firm that has surpassed 5 billion shillings in assets under management and recently launched East Africa's first private debt special fund. Please welcome CPA Professor Elizabeth Kalunda.
Thank you so much, CEO, and thank you, Mwakazi, for that introduction. So before I start with my official opening remarks, I want to say that God is good. And this gathering is the proof. Do you believe that? Do you believe that we were not here because of our own making? Yes, so I want you to turn to your neighbor, both sides, and tell them that you are a survivor, you have survived through a tough year, and we are forging on as a profession. And especially for us who came yesterday, it was a long, 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 long journey. So we really thank God that we are here, and we are converging here because we are great minds, and as a profession, we have a great role to play in this country. So I will now start with my official remarks. Our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, advocate of the High Courts of Kenya and Tanzania, Pan-Africanist and author. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Jean Boku, Icpak president, and CPA Keto Kayemba. This is the immediate former PAFA president. I know most of us keep asking, where is this Icpak? We keep talking about Icpak, we keep talking about PAFA. We have brought them here. They will tell us who they are and why we are important members in those organizations. To FCPA Geoffrey Malombe, who is the chair of the Accountant Acts and Regulation Review Task Force. To the vice chairman, FCPA Bernard Amuka, Icpak Council members present, and I will request them to stand wherever they are so that you can see them. I know we saw them electronically, but my council colleagues, please, wherever you are, please stand up. Please a clap to them. So for council colleagues, we've spread ourselves out through the physical venues that we have. None of us is online, so meaning we are all here. Thank you so much for being here. We have FCPA Georgina Malombe. We are an elected council member. We have CPA Matthew Mukisu representing the Capital Markets Authority. We have a new council member. This is CPA Jane Washuka. She represents the National Treasury. She took up that position from FCPA John Awala. Makofi kwake, mkaribisheni. Yes, and yeah, thank you. If I go to the next room, we have members who are in Pride In, so if the cameras can take us there, please, you can sit. So if the cameras are not able to, good, yes. I can see CPA Olive, who has just been re-elected in her second term. Makofi kwake. And I'm sure later we'll give her an opportunity to thank the members for voting for her. We have CPA Bishanga. Okay, if I'm right, I'm just matching what I saw in the morning. We have CPA Hesbon Omolo, FCPA, sorry. We also have FCPA Professor Leting. Yes, thank you. We have CPA Mbogo, who at least is quite happy. He's saying he's no longer the newest kid in the block in council. Now we have CPA Olive when we count the terms, but he still remains the youngest kid in the block of council. Yeah, so I think I've introduced all members. Sorry. I have left out one member who actually stands in for me whenever I am overwhelmed or whenever we need to consult. This is the Vice Chairman of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, FCPA Bernard Amuka. Yeah, so I'm hoping I've introduced all members. Thank you. Yeah, so those are the council members. To our CEO, CPA Dr. Grace Kamau, who just stood here to give us the opening remarks. To past Icpak chairmen who are in this room and past Icpak council members who are here. Again, this year, I am very privileged to also have representatives from professional accountancy organizations from the region. I will request them please to stand so that you can see them and you say hi and we welcome them to Kenya. We have the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda, led by their president, CPA David Timothy Idiomu. Thank you, Timothy, for joining us. We have from Somalia, CPA Salah Karibu Kabisa. We have members from the NBAA. This is from Uganda, sorry, from Tanzania. You can please raise up your hand. We'll get to, this is the team. We also have members from the OPC Burundi. Yeah, we were just there recently for a PAFA meeting. Thank you so much for welcoming us so warmly. We have SIPA, or SICPA. Yeah, Icpak. Yes, we have this, good, my good friend, happy to see you, thank you, yes. And also the gentleman here. So these are members from professional accountancy organizations who always join us whenever we have our event. So it means that we are working together as a community. Please have your seats. We also have a very special category that was not in this list, but it is very important that I mention them. We have the disciplinary committee members. Please, where you are, stand up. Now, Icpak, we have a disciplinary committee. And this is a committee that takes up on disciplinary matters. So those I can see here, we have Koki, who is a well-known lawyer or a legal profession, I think also a politician, but a very renowned Kenyan figure. Thank you for being a member of our DC. We have FCPA Francis Kivuli with us. And I'm sure the others will be, probably they're in other rooms, they'll be there. Thank you, please take your seat. We also have leaders of branches. Remember, Icpak, we are devolved. Besides having the national team, we have the branches. So branch leaders in this room and the other rooms, please, you can stand. Yes, so these are the leaders of the branches. We have 9 branches. We also have the chapters. Some of them will be representing us in they'll be appearing in the panel. So we have South Rift, CPA Dr. Dorothy. We have Northern, CPA Unsur. We have CPA Simon from Mount Kenya. We have, I think, Abdullah from Northern. We have CPA Mate from Eastern. We have CPA Caroline from Mount Kenya. We have CPA Stephen Mwania from Eastern. We have CPA, the chair of Central Rift. We have Joroge. The others I cannot see. I wear glasses, but I've not worn them. So the other branch leaders who are here, Asanteni San, good. I can see my chairman from Eastern Branch, that is CPA Felix. And yeah, and Jan, CPA Jan from Central Rift. Yeah, so for those of you who have not mentioned their names, please, you'll excuse me, I can see CPA Elijah from North Rift. So those are the branch leaders who are here. We have more, but probably in the other room, so karibuni sana. I also want to recognize all the FCPAs, CPAs in this room, and those also who are online. Thank you for being with us. And to our esteemed speakers, distinguished participants, members of the 4th Estate and Icpak Secretariat, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so it was really a long protocol from an introduction point. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to the 43rd Icpak Annual Seminar Edition 1. For over 4 decades, this seminar has remained one of the most respected platforms for professional reflection, policy engagement, thought leadership, and strategic dialogue within the accountancy profession in Kenya and across the region, evolving into a national and continental platform where leaders converge to interrogate emerging realities, challenge conventional thinking, and architect the future of institutions, economies, and society itself. We are particularly honored to be joined today by our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, one of Africa's most distinguished voices on governance, ethical leadership, Pan-Africanism, and institutional transformation. Professor, your unwavering advocacy for ethical governance continues to inspire generations of professionals across Africa, and we look forward to your profound reflections on leadership, nationhood, and Africa's future. I also warmly welcome the global leadership of our profession. We have the Icpak President, Mr. Jean Boku, and immediate former PAFA President, CPA Keto Kayemba, whose contributions continue to shape the evolution of the accountancy profession globally and across Africa. I equally want to acknowledge FCPA Geoffrey Malombe, Chair of the Accountants Act and Regulation Review Task Force, colleagues from PAOs across Africa and beyond, leaders from government and industry, fellow council members, distinguished delegates, sponsors, partners, and the Icpak Secretariat for the excellent work in organizing this seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in history when professions are called upon not merely to perform technical responsibilities, but to help societies steady institutions, restore confidence, and shape the future direction of nations. I believe we are living in such a moment. Across the world, geopolitical tensions, artificial intelligence, climate change, and growing citizen demands for accountability are reshaping economies, and institutions are at an unprecedented pace. Kenya is not insulated from these pressures. Navigating growth projections of around 5% against rising fuel cost, elevated taxation, and public debts exceeding 11 trillion of Kenyan shillings. Yet, beneath these economic pressures lies a deeper national question. How do nations build growth that citizens genuinely trust? Kenyans are no longer asking institutions merely to function. They are demanding institutions worthy of trust. And I believe trust and integrity will be a key word during this conference. That fundamental shift places the accountancy profession squarely at the center of our national conversation. When uncertainties rises, organizations seek insights. When confidence weakens, investors demand transparency. When institutions are tested, leadership becomes everything. This is precisely the moment our profession was built for. It is therefore fitting that our theme this year is Leading with Influence, Accountants as Architects of Organizational Growth and Transformation. Today, accountants have evolved far beyond the traditional roles of serving as record keepers or bin keepers to serving as strategists, governance advisors, sustainability champions, and trusted voices at the heart of organizational leadership. Like architects, my dear professional colleagues, who design with longevity in mind, we are called not merely to report performance, but to shape institutional resilience, ethical leadership, sustainability, and long-term value creation. Looking at Africa, I can say that Africa's integration agenda, anchored by the Africa Free Trade Area, market of 1.4 billion people, and a combined GDP of USD 3.4 trillion, demands harmonized reporting standards, coherent tax systems, and cross-border regulatory collaboration. Icpak must rise beyond national boundaries. As a regional thought leader, driving institutional and economic integration. At both the African Forward Summit and the Africa CEO Forum, a clear verdict emerged. Africa's competitiveness will not rest on natural resources alone. I know as Africa, we keep bragging we have the bulk of the global natural resources. But we must lie and we must leverage on our competitiveness, on institutional strength, governance, credibility, digital readiness, accountable public finance, and ethical leadership. These are not abstract continental conversations. They describe the work professional accountants do every day. Institutions do not fail overnight. We've heard about that. And we know they erode gradually. And it is our profession that must help protect that trust. Globally, with ESG-linked investments exceeding USD 30 trillion, sustainability has become an economic competitiveness issue, not merely an environmental one. Accountants are now essential in building credible ESG reporting systems, implementing IFRS S1 and S2, which are on sustainability disclosures and climate change, and guiding organizations to balance profitability with responsibility to people, communities, and the environment. On the other front, artificial intelligence and digital transformation are reshaping business at an unprecedented speed, making digital governance alongside cyber risk, AI ethics, and data integrity a board-level priority. The accountant of the future must understand both financial and digital governance systems. Yet, amid rising technological change, one truth endures. Technology processes information, but only human judgment builds trust. I want to repeat that. Technology processes information, but only human judgment builds trust. Ethical leadership has never been more critical, for moral failure remains the greatest institutional threat. Across Africa, building economic resilience requires physical discipline. And this requires also transparent procurement and accountable stewardship of public resources. Professional accountants are central to this effort, driving value for money auditing, credible budgeting, and anti-corruption systems that convert public resources into public trust. In an era of growing citizen demand for accountability, our profession must stand firmly on the side of integrity, transparency, and national responsibility. Now, a profession that grows must always incorporate the young ones or the future leaders. And this year we have a session for the young leaders, and I want to say that young professionals are entering a profession shaped by AI, sustainability reporting, and digital disruption. And this future will only belong to those who lead it. With nearly 70% of sub-Saharan Africa under 30 years of age, Africa's youthful energy is a generational economic opportunity. To my dear young professionals, invest in skills, innovate boldly, and lead ethically. For your qualification opens doors, but your integrity determines your lasting impact. I just want to quote and say, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow, and tomorrow begins now. So equip yourself not just with knowledge, but with character, for the world needs professionals who are both brilliant and good in morals. Icpak remains committed to building a future-ready, ethically grounded, and globally competitive profession. We are proudly representing over 40,000 plus professionals serving across 44 countries. For 42 years, this annual seminar has championed governance, accountability, and economic progress. Africa's transformation demands from these numbers that I've mentioned collaboration across governments, professionals, and civil society, and Icpak will continue strengthening strategic alliances and driving national reforms. Remember that nations rise not merely through resources, but because institutions work, and institutions work when integrity leads. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered for, what we have gathered for today is not merely a seminar. It is a reckoning to live with the full weight of our professional calling. Look back far enough and the pattern is unmistakable. Great nations have crumbled, not for want of resources, but for want of integrity. Empires have fallen, not to foreign armies, but to hollow institutions and broken trust. Kenya and Africa cannot afford that phase. And under our watch, as CPAs, as professionals who uphold integrity, this will not happen. The next chapter of this continent will not be written by politicians alone, nor by economists alone. It will be written in the ledgers that we keep, the standards we uphold, and the institutions we refuse to compromise. As accountants, we are not spectators at the table of transformation. We are the architects who design it. So I leave you not with a challenge, but with a charge. Lead where others have retreated. Build where others have torn down. Transform what others have given up on. Carry these words through every session of this seminar and back to your offices, your boardrooms, and your communities. Remember, integrity is no longer a soft virtue. It is the most consequential act of professional courage. And influence, as our theme reads, is not a privilege of position, it is the responsibility of purpose. And growth, again, as mentioned in our theme, is real, sustainable, and generational growth, which is only ever built on a foundation of trust. So my last words are, we are the architects, the blueprint in integrity, and building starts now. So thank you so much, our dear delegates. God bless you. God bless our beloved Kenya, and karibuni sana. Yes, so those were my opening remarks, and I'm hoping that as we start off the seminar, we are going to be charged. Integrity will always be the buzzword. In terms of transformation, we are the ones to bring transformation as architects in our workplaces. My dear delegates here and online, I want to take this opportunity to welcome and to invite to the podium a professional whose leadership has shaped the trajectory of accountancy across our continent. As the immediate former president of PAFA, which is the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, CPA Keto Kayemba has championed the cause of a unified, future-ready, and globally competitive African accountancy profession with remarkable vision and conviction. This morning, she will address us on a subject that sits at the very heart of our gathering, the evolving identity of the modern accounting, making of future-ready accountants. So ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Please rise. Rise, yes. It is an honor to have a PAFA president here. Yeah, so let's put our hands together and receive CPA Keto Kayemba. Karibu, all the way from Uganda.
Is a respected governance and public finance leader and former president of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants. Widely recognized for championing trust, ethics and accountability within the profession, she continues to influence institutional strengthening and financial governance across Africa through her leadership, advisory and board roles. Please welcome CPA Keto Kayemba.
I'm just amused that Professor asked you to stand up. But thank you so much. I'm extremely excited and really overwhelmed to know that you are in 3 different sites. Congratulations to Icpak. This is amazing. And I think I have a story to tell as I get back home. But I'm of course happy that my president is here, Honorable Timothy Ediomu, and he is seeing what's happening in Kenya. Our chief guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, I'm more than honored to be on the same, you want to lift it? I'm more than honored to be here to speak just before you. Because for all Africans, you mean so much. You say so much. You inspire our leaders, and you give us hope that there is a tomorrow where Africa will be standing tall. The President, the chairman of Icpak, Professor Elizabeth, and your council, the CEO of Icpak, the presidents of other African PAOs, and all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow colleagues. I stand on the protocol already stated. Good morning, all of you. It's an honor to stand before this distinguished gathering at this annual conference. I thank the organizers for the invitation to speak on a subject that is not only timely, but fundamental to the future of our profession. The evolving identity of the modern accountant, the making of future-ready accountants. At PAFA, this is what we do, looking at how we can future-proof accountancy such that we remain relevant and will provide the necessary value to the continent. PAFA is the Pan-African Federation of Accountants. We are a federation of all the professional accountancy bodies in the continent, and we are the voice of the profession in the continent. We therefore represent you and relate and partner with other professional organizations to ensure that we bring up the profession in Africa. The accountancy profession is undergoing a profound identity shift. For generations, the accountant has been seen as the custodian of financial integrity, the guardian of compliance, the expert in reporting and auditing, and the trusted professional behind the numbers. Those responsibilities remain foundational, But today, the expectations are greater. The environment is more volatile, and the demands on our profession are rising faster than ever before. Technology is transforming industries at remarkable speed. Companies can rise to global prominence within a few years. AI is automating work once done manually. Data has become a strategic asset. Cyber threats can destabilize an organization overnight. Globalization has made economies deeply interconnected. So disruption in one region can send shockwaves across continents within hours. I will not be surprised if the fuel crisis you had here yesterday has not already caught up in Kampala. Business risks are becoming more complex, more concentrated, and more difficult to predict. Sustainability is also reshaping corporate priorities and forcing organizations to confront climate-related risks with new urgency. And in the center of this complexity stands the accountant. The accountant stands not as a passive observer, but as a trusted guide. Not as a recorder of history alone, but as a shaper of what comes next. Our identity must evolve because the world we serve has changed. Stakeholders are demanding greater transparency and accountability. I believe you know what's happening in Uganda today with the accountability of our former speaker. And that is what we are talking about, and it must be catching fire in Kenya too. Our ethics, our relevance, and our contribution to long-term value creation are under sharper scrutiny than ever before. Societies expect us to uphold our core duty to serve the public interest. This morning, I invite us to reflect on 6 forces shaping the evolving identity of the modern accountant and what they demand of us as we build future-ready professionals. The words I'm going to say have already been said. I think it's a thread showing the important things that we must look at and that we must have in the backs of our brains as we serve as accountants. Ethics, trust, and professional relevance. The rise of the strategic advisor, the impact of technology, the rise of sustainability, the increased significance of soft skills, and preparing African accountants for the future of accounting. I'll go to my first force. That is ethics, trust, and professional relevance. At the heart of the accounting profession lies one timeless principle: trust. Without trust, financial systems weaken, investors lose confidence, institutions are damaged, and economies are placed at risk. Our profession is built not only on the technical competence, but on integrity and a clear mandate to serve the public interest. In a world marked by fraud, corruption, cybercrime, government failures, and the manipulation of information, ethical leadership is not optional. Society needs accountants who will stand for truth, uphold standards, protect transparency, and defend accountability. The future-ready accountant must possess not only competence, but character. And in moments when institutions are tested, it's often character that makes the greatest difference. Accountants have a crucial role to play in strengthening governance, improving public accountability, and supporting economic transformation. Every ethical financial report contributes to national credibility. Every transparent audit that we do strengthens institutions. Every courageous professional decision protects public trust. The accountant, therefore, is not merely a financial professional. The accountant is a guardian of institutional integrity. That's what we are, and we must take it seriously given the erosion of ethics in the current world. We have something priceless as a profession, and we must hold it because it will give us the necessary value that we deserve. The second force is the rise of the strategic advisor. Businesses today are under pressure to remain competitive, manage uncertainty, build resilience, create long-term value, and navigate digital transformation. In that environment, accountants are no longer expected merely to report on performance after the fact. They are expected to help shape those decisions before the moment is lost. Organizations are no longer asking only, what do the numbers say? They are asking, what do the numbers mean? What risks are emerging? What choices must we make now? That's why boards and executives increasingly expect accountants to contribute at the highest strategic level. I sit on a number of boards, and I listen and I hear. And indeed, the respect they have for the accountant is immense, both as an accountant on the board, but also when you're on the board and relating with management, it is usually the accountant. What are you telling us? What's happening? What should we do? With this shift in professional identity, the accountant is becoming central to organizational leadership. Strategic decisions carry financial implications, and accountants understand financial reality better than most professionals. The modern accountant must help organizations prepare for tomorrow with all its uncertainties. This is not because accountants are suddenly more important than others, but because modern organizations need professionals who can combine financial insight, analytical thinking, risk awareness, governance, discipline, and strategic understanding. Accountants sit at the intersection of finance, operations, governance, and strategy, and are therefore uniquely positioned to provide direction. We understand the numbers and the stories behind them. We see patterns, we understand performance, we analyze trends, we identify inefficiencies, evaluate risks, and provide evidence-based information to support decision-making, strategic decision-making. The CFO of today and tomorrow is a strategic partner. To operate strategically, accountants must expand their capabilities. Future-ready accountants must understand business models, industry dynamics, customer behavior, economic trends, and regulatory environments and sustainability risks. The accountant is a business advisor who influences organization direction, a steward of innovation and resilience, and a transformational leader. My third force is the impact of technology, digital disruption, and artificial intelligence. Technology is perhaps the greatest single force reshaping our identity. AI can analyze enormous volumes of financial data within seconds. Machine learning can identify anomalies, detect fraud patterns, forecast trends, and improve decision-making accuracy. Cloud platforms enable real-time reporting from anywhere in the world. Blockchain is redefining transaction verification and audit trails. Fintech, mobile payments, digital banking, robotic processing automation, and big data analytics are transforming the profession at an extraordinary speed. The message is clear. Technology is not at the edge of the profession. It is now at the center of our profession. Naturally, this has created anxiety for some professionals who fear that accountancy is becoming obsolete. However, it is accountants who refuse to evolve who may become irrelevant. Technology is not replacing the profession. It is only redefining it. Routine tasks are being automated, and machines can generate numbers quickly. The value of the accountant does not lie merely in information processing. Our real value is shifting upwards towards interpretation, strategy, insights, and decision-making. Machines cannot replace human judgment, ethical reasoning, emotional intelligence, or strategic insight. It still takes a professional accountant to interpret the implications of data analysis and decide how to respond. Technology, therefore, elevates rather than diminishes the role of accountants. It frees our time to focus on higher value activities for organizations and economies. Future-ready accountants must therefore understand data analytics, financial technologies, ERP systems, AI-driven reporting tools, cybersecurity risks, and digital governance. In today's world, digital competence is professional competence. Technology is no longer just an IT issue, it's a business issue. The accountant must become digitally intelligent and technologically confident. My third force is sustainability, ESG, and integrated reporting. One of the most significant transformations in modern business is the rise of sustainability as a boardroom priority. Economies and organizations are being forced to confront the realities of climate change, resource pressure, social expectation, and long-term resilience. At the same time, many institutions still struggle to gather reliable non-financial data and to report transparently on climate impact and carbon exposure. Investors, regulators, employees, and communities are all asking a broader question. Not only whether a business is profitable, but whether it is responsible, whether it is resilient, and whether it is sustainable. Accountants, again, are uniquely positioned to measure, verify, and communicate organizational performance using established reporting frameworks and assurance standards. The International Sustainability Standards Board's IFRS 1 and S2 standards now provide guidance on the disclosure of sustainability-related and climate-related risks and opportunity. We in Uganda have already adopted the standard, and it is due for implementation 2028. I know you are a bit higher than us in Kenya, so probably yours is already under implementation. Accountants are increasingly becoming responsible for carbon accounting, climate risk disclosures, sustainability assurance, integrated reporting, and social impact measurement. The profession is evolving from measuring financial performance alone to measuring long-term value creation and resistance. This requires us to view businesses and economies holistically and not only in financial terms. The next force I have is the power of soft skills and human intelligence. As technology becomes more advanced, interestingly, human capability becomes more valuable. AI cannot replace ethical judgment, emotional intelligence, leadership, creativity, empathy, or professional courage. The future-ready accountant must develop not only digital fluency, but human depth. In the workplace of tomorrow and today, those qualities will distinguish professionals who simply process information for those who truly lead. I have taken a number of soft skills that I think the accountant needs in today's environment and in the future. Confidence. The transition to a strategic advisor requires confidence. Staying behind the scenes is no longer enough. Accountants must step forward to influence, communicate, lead, and shape decisions. We are evolving from transactional support to strategic influence. Communication skills. Accountants must communicate financial insights clearly and confidently. The ability to simplify complexity is becoming a critical leadership skill. Critical thinking and innovation. Future accountants must analyze beyond the obvious. They must question assumptions, interpret deeper implications, and identify opportunities to improve processes, services, and products. Adaptability. The pace of change means learning can never stop. The future-ready accountant must become a lifelong learner. Partnerships. Modern business challenges require teamwork across multiple disciplines. Accountants increasingly work with IT professionals, sustainability experts, regulators, data analysts, operational managers, and investors. Effective stakeholder management and collaboration are now essential. And my last soft skill is leadership. Leadership is no longer optional for an accountant. Every accountant must develop leadership capacity, regardless of title or position. The future accountant must be both technically competent and emotionally intelligent. And now I go to my last force, preparing African accountants for the future. Africa stands at a defining moment of opportunity. I don't know whether we all see it as such. I really wait to hear what Professor has to tell us. We have a young and energetic population. We have expanding digital economies. We have abundant natural resources. We have the entrepreneurial drive. I'm told Uganda is the highest entrepreneurial country in the world. And we have a growing potential for regional trade integration. Look at that mix. But opportunity alone does not guarantee progress. It must be matched by strong institutions, ethical leadership, sound governance, and professionals who can turn potential into sustainable value. Accountants have a central role to play in that mission. If we prepare well, this profession will not only support Africa's growth, it will help shape a more transparent, resilient, and prosperous future for the continent. Given these opportunities, preparation is essential. Professional bodies, universities, regulators, employers, and governments must work together to prepare future-ready accountants. We must rethink accountancy education, professional training, skills development, leadership preparation, and technology integration. Future accountants must graduate with more than technical knowledge. They must develop digital literacy, strategic thinking, ethical leadership, business understanding, communication capability, and adaptability. Most importantly, young professionals, and I have a daughter who is following me, she's a young professional, and I can see the difference between me and her. Young professionals entering this field must understand one truth. Future success will depend on continuous reinvention. The accountant who stops learning risks becoming obsolete. But the accountant who remains curious, adaptable, and courageous will remain relevant, resilient, and ready for every new challenge. The future belongs to professionals who are willing to grow into it. Let me try to conclude. The identity of the accountant is evolving, and this evolution should not be feared. Don't allow it anymore when people tell you that accountancy is, we have no jobs. No, no, no. It should be embraced. It is a call to higher relevance, greater leadership, deeper courage, and broader impact. The future will belong to accountants who can combine integrity with insight, technical excellence with strategic judgment, and digital fluency with an unwavering commitment to the public interest. This is not a diminished vision of the profession. It's a bigger one. The future accountant will not simply report the future. The future-ready accountant will help shape it. We will build trust where trust is fragile. We will bring clarity. We will bring clarity where complexity is rising. We will create value where uncertainty is greatest. And if we prepare deliberately, lead boldly, and continue learning relentlessly, our profession will not merely respond to change. It will help define the future of business, institutions, and society. As I close, the accountant of yesterday was valued for accuracy and compliance. The accountant of today is valued for insight and judgment. But the accountant of tomorrow will be valued for something even greater: the ability to build trust, lead change, and create lasting value in a world that will not stand still. Future-ready accountants will not emerge by accident. They will be formed by discipline, expanded by learning, tested by change, and anchored in integrity. That responsibility belongs to our institutions. It belongs to our profession, and it belongs to each one of us. So let's rise to this moment with confidence. Let's prepare with urgency. Let's lead with integrity. And let's build a profession that's not only ready for the future, but worthy of it. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, CPA Keto Kayemba, for that. And indeed, that was a powerful keynote address. Before I invite the next speaker, I just want to pick a few points that she's raised. One is that as a world, we are becoming a global village. What happens here happens in the next country and in the next continent. But what remains is that ethics, trust, and professional relevance will always remain a constant. She has also mentioned that the future accountant does not to be technically savvy, because that's what we are, but besides that, character will always be a need for this profession. And as accountants, we must remain guardians of institutional integrity, and this is priceless. She has also talked about sustainability and meaning of information for decision making. And as accountants, we are to lead from a strategic point. How do we collect that information? How do we interpret it? And how is it used to make strategic decisions? She has also mentioned about technology and its impact. She's talked about AI and digital transformation. And as CPAs, the question has always been, are we going to be phased out by technology? But from her speech, it is clear that we will always be needed as professionals, but only if we upskill. Again, matters of sustainability, which as a CPAs or as a profession, these have become a very key issues. We have the IFRS S1 and S2, and we have to ensure we are looking at long-term value creation as we chase on profitability, which has now become a secondary goal in our activities. Again, soft skills can never be overemphasized. We must embrace soft skills, and the accountant of tomorrow must be a leader, because accountancy as a profession is a leadership position. Again, I cannot miss out on our young population. This is a huge resource that we have, but we must leverage on it, and we must ensure that we are rethinking the accountancy training. We must continuously reinvent ourselves. We must be multi-skilled, and whatever we do, public interest should be our North Star. So with that, please let's give her another loud hand of applause. Asante sana. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is with the deepest sense of privilege that I now invite to this podium a voice that needs no introduction, yet it deserves every introduction. A distinguished advocate, a fearless Pan-Africanist, a scholar of governance, and a conscience of our continent. An icon who has spent a lifetime holding Africa to its highest ideals. His words have challenged presidents, inspired generations, and reminded us that the greatest threat to Africa's future is not poverty. It is the poverty of integrity. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than Professor PLO Lumumba. I will request you to please put up your hands together, receive him with the warmth that this occasion deserves. PLO,
He
karibu.
is a renowned professor of public law, advocate of the High Courts of Kenya and Tanzania, celebrated Pan-Africanist and accomplished author. With an illustrious career spanning legal practice, governance, academia, and anti-corruption advocacy, he continues to inspire audiences across Africa and the world through his thought leadership on ethics, leadership, and African transformation. Please welcome Professor PLO Lumumba.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my good friend Johnson Mwakazi. Permit me to recognize the chairperson of Icpak, Professor Elizabeth Kalunda. Permit me also to recognize the former chair of PAFA, Madam Keto Kayemba, the former chairpersons of Icpak, the members of the council, the leaders of the accounting profession from different parts of the continent of Africa, the trainer of accountants in Kenya, who is also a member of your council, my good friend FCPA, Professor Leting, and the members of the accounting profession. Let me preface my submission to you by saying that I have a fully written paper which you'll have occasion to read. It speaks to my subject. And what I'll do, therefore, is simply to tease out some of the things that I think are critical to the conversation that we are holding this morning. And I hold the view that during the 3 or 4 days that you will be present here, this will not just be yet another meeting, but that you will wrap your minds around critical issues that face the continent of Africa as accountants. We remind ourselves on an occasion such as this that Africa is at crossroads. I'm quite certain that when you attend meetings, this is a statement that we hear times without number. We are at crossroads. Africa has potential. The 21st century is Africa's century. They have almost become cliches. But yet the reality is that this continent will either rise or fall on the quality of the men and women who serve her. And the accountancy profession is at the very heart of those who will influence growth in the continent of Africa. Next year, we will be celebrating the 70th anniversary of Ghana, which was the first sub-Saharan country to regain independence. I'm aware that Sudan did so in 1956. I'm also aware that Egypt did so in 1922. But Ghana was iconic because it is after Ghana that when African countries met in Addis Ababa in 1963, and formed the Organization of African Unity, what we now call the African Union, that Africa started defining herself differently. Africans were then saying, each one of the leaders present, that the continent must think differently, that the African professional must think differently, that our financial systems must be dealt with differently. And even in those early days, the accountant was considered to be at the very heart of the financial well-being, not only of our countries, complete with auditors general, complete with controllers of budget, but that in every organization, whether they were universities, whether they were hostels, whether they were schools, the life of every organization was never complete without the accountant. In those days, the accountant was considered as the gatekeeper who ensured that individuals did not put their hands in the till, and that when you did so, you would be found out and you would be punished. So that in those early days, you looked at the reports of the Auditor General, and it helped you determine whether your country was doing well. In those early days, whenever you wanted to engage in any development, even if we did not say so loudly, the accountant was always in the background, influencing processes. That has not changed. The accountant remains the quintessential professional because he or she determines the financial well-being of every institution in which they operate. Times have changed, but somehow times have not changed. As the French say, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. But what does that mean for the accountant in this day and age? Why is it that even as we give the accountancy profession her pride of place in the continent of Africa, we still sometimes get it wrong? You know, every year in all African countries, auditors general tell us, this is how our money was spent. This is how the politicians misused and or embezzled our funds. This is how some civil servants misused and or embezzled our funds. This is how our funds were utilized. They say that in Kenya, they say that in Uganda, they say that in the United Republic of Tanzania, they say that in Somalia, they say that everywhere. We get angry for a few days, then we go back to business as usual. But the beauty is that those records serve to keep us in check. They warn all of us that if we do not conduct ourselves properly, then there is a time for reckoning. And that is why, because we ignore you accountants, many African countries today are essentially technically insolvent. That is why when our parliaments, for example, have passed budgets when we have made decisions on how to conduct our affairs, an institution called the IMF or the World Bank will come and tell us, you can say all you want in Mogadishu, say all you want in Kampala, say all you want in Dodoma, say all you want in Nairobi, but you've got to come to us in Washington so that we can discuss with you how you will run your affairs. My thesis, therefore, is that the time is now for African governments and African institutions to recognize the role of the accountant. And it is also incumbent upon the accountant to recognize the value of his or her role. It is not sufficient, as others have already said, to simply say, and sometimes say so in resignation, that this we cannot do, that our work ends with ensuring that the books are kept and that we read at the end of every year, this is how books were kept. If you want to lead with influence, you have to lead with integrity. And the truth is this: if you are a man or a woman of integrity and a professional accountant, you attract many enemies. If you want to do that which is good and right, you attract many enemies. But the last time I checked, integrity was not a popularity test. Integrity is about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do the right thing. But I'm suggesting to you, accountant, that that is why your profession demands of you that at all times you must do the right thing. It demands of you that you must do that which is good and right. I am certain that there are times when you serve institutions, when you are asked to massage the accounts, you are requested politely to say certain things which are not supported by the numbers and the books. Because that is why I think, not only in Africa, why is it that Enron collapsed? Were there not accountants who every year were talking about what was happening with Enron? In the United States of America, when the man Madoff collapsed with people's funds, were there not accountants? When Nakumatt collapsed in Kenya, were there not accountants? When Uchumi was on her deathbed in Kenya, were there not accountants? When we now know in Kenya that over half of our public universities are technically insolvent, are there not accountants? And this can be replicated in a number of countries in the continent of Africa. The question is, what must the accountants do so that their influence is positive? Because you can influence things negatively. And I'm suggesting to you that those of you who are here, what you must do is to be a positive influencer. Because if you want to transform institutions, how do you transform institutions? How do you make sure that institutions will change the society? Look at all sectors. And I'm looking at Africa. I'm looking at the health sector. Our national hospitals. How do they run? Kenyatta National Hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. Does it have an accounting department? Mulago in Uganda. Does it have an accounting department? Mama Yemo in the Democratic Republic of Congo, does it have accountants? They do. But why is it, therefore, that with their influence, when you and me are sick, you want to go to India? Why? When you and me are unwell, we want to go to Dubai. Why? Our universities, then they have accounting departments, and you are there and you are influencing. Why is it that when you want to take your children to school, you take them to schools which offer international baccalaureate and IGC, you don't take them in the Ugandan system or the Kenyan system or the Tanzanian system? Why? Why do you imagine that accountants of foreign extraction are better than us? These are the critical questions that we must pose and answer if we take the view that accountants should be architects of growth and transformation. We live in a country and in a continent where we have architects. But buildings sometimes collapse, even when they have been approved, even when they claim that they have used the correct and the right type of cement. You who are transformers, you who are accountants, the question that I want you to ask today, how are you going to transform institutions? Have you relegated your role to merely reading statements at the end of financial years? Do you care about this generation and generations yet to be born? If you are serving in the various capital markets authority in your country, are they surviving? Are they alive and well? If you are working in banks, are they alive and well? If you are working in educational institutions, are they alive and well? When you are serving as members of the financial committees of the boards, are they alive and well? Are they performing the task that will change the continent of Africa? Because the continent of Africa must change. But it will only change when we professionals, you the accountants, at the very heart of it, are determined to change it and change it positively. Several years ago, in the year 2004, the presidents of East Africa said that we would integrate the East African community. At that time, South Sudan was not a member, Somalia was not a member, the Democratic Republic of Congo was not a member. It was Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. And we said that by the year 2009, we shall have a single currency. That by January 2010, we'll have a president of East African community, and that our systems would be integrated so that it would be seamless. 16 years down the line, we are still singing to the birds. The question is, we who are professionals who are present here, who want to help integrate our systems, what can we do? And I must commend the accounting profession because you allow for cross-border practice. Those are some of the things that will tell the politicians that we can play around up here, but in the critical areas we are beginning to integrate. In the critical areas we are beginning to recognize that the Ugandan accountant, that the Tanzanian accountant, that the accountant from Nigeria must begin to read from the same script. And it is only when we begin to read from the same script that we are going to ensure that we harmonize our tax system, that we harmonize all the things that undergird and underpin what Africa desires to be and what Africa must be. You know, as I speak to you, whenever you attend African meetings about finances and about many things, you today must hear about Africa Agenda 2063. And in Africa Agenda 2063, we are promising ourselves that come the year 2063, Africa will be different. Will be a middle-income economy. Our professionals will be operating in the continent of Africa without let and hindrance. We are also telling ourselves that there will be something called, and indeed it is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And if I want to move any good from Djibouti in the Horn of Africa to Nouakchott in Mauritania, or from Algiers in Algeria to Port Elizabeth in South Africa, or from Bangui in Central African Republic to Libreville in Gabon, it will move seamlessly. The question is, are you present in that conversation? You who want to ensure that you transform organizations, are you present? Or you are present in Kenya and Uganda only? Or you are present in Mogadishu only, or in Kigali, Rwanda only, or in Bujumbura, in Burundi only? No, the saying goes that he or she who has not traveled thinks that his mother is the best cook. But if we are talking about integration and talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, what are the accounting standards? We talk about globalization. But globalization can be understood in different ways. You can be globalized to be dominated, or you can be globalized to be part of something. In what way is Africa globalized? We had a meeting in Nairobi on the 11th and 12th of May. Convened supposedly by Kenya and France. At the end of it, it is the French president who said, I'm going to give you 27 billion. Who is globalized in that arrangement? And there was nothing new about that meeting. The regional meeting had been held in France in 1973. And even much earlier, there was a meeting in Brazzaville in 1944. Nothing new. Does Africa want to be globalized in that way? Or you want to be globalized so that you are an equal partner in the things that you do? When, for example, accountants say these are international standards, are they international? Are you the ones who have said that they are international? Or somebody sitting outside of Africa has said they are international, and you are simply like the tail being wagged by some dog somewhere? I'm suggesting to you that if you are to lead with influence, if you are to lead Africa for growth and transformation, you must define who you are. Does Africa define herself? Do African professionals define themselves? Today, when you look at Southeast Asia, whether it is Indonesia that you are thinking about, whether it's Singapore that you are thinking about, whether it's Thailand that you are thinking about, Vietnam that you are thinking about, whether you are thinking about China, whether you are thinking about India, and you talk about the BRICS. What are they discussing? What are they defining? What are they telling the accountants? Do we think like them? We of the African extraction. We may attend their meetings in Beijing. We may be invited to Paris, or we may be invited to London. We may even belong to organizations which are characterized as international organizations. But in what capacity are we participating? As equal partners, or we are merely, as they say in English, playing the gooseberry? These are the questions. And I'm urging all of us who are present here as accountants, the time is now. Africa has been great in potential for too long. Potential without being converted into something tangible is like flowers and gathered gold and mined. The time is now for you who are in the accounting profession to go to the next level. You know, we are gathering here, depending on who you talk to, we are in the 4th or 5th industrial revolution. Artificial intelligence. True. But is that the real state of most of Africa? When you talk about artificial intelligence, does it make sense in Sudan now? Does it make sense to the trader in Niamey, in Niger, on N'Djamena, in Chad? So the accountant in Africa must also be agile, because we may be interacting with artificial intelligence, but in your rural home, they could very well be in the 15th century in the manner in which they run their affairs. How do you deal with them? The trader in Owino market in Uganda, are you asking them to invest in artificial intelligence in gathering their data? The numbered traders on your way from Kampala to Jinja who are selling roast chicken, how do you deal with them? I'm suggesting to us that the African accountant is in a unique position. Within one day, he or she is dealing with an SME which cannot afford to hire an accountant, only interacts with the accountant at the end of the financial year for purposes of filing false returns sometimes. False because even the data had not been properly gathered. There is no time to gather the data, but the Kenya Revenue Authority or the Revenue Authority wants you to file something so that you can have a tax compliance, so that you can bid for tenders in government. And more than half of those tax compliances, if you look very keenly, they don't comply, but we accept they comply. What am I suggesting, therefore, is that the African accountant is different. He knows a lot more. He's not like his counterpart in Oslo, in Norway, or Denmark, or Austria, because the environment is different, and the environment defines how you conduct and behave. When the good Madam Keto talked about adaptability, the African accountant must be agile, must be adaptable, must understand the environment, must know what he or she is dealing with, must understand the character and the nature of the institution that he or she is involved in. You know, whenever I think about artificial intelligence and accountancy, I remember a book that I read as a young student, Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. It was the worst of times and it was the best of times. There is a sense in which when we talk about the accounting profession, we are in the best of times because technology is neutral. Technology is an enabler. Technology can never substitute the human being. When they came up with the sewing machine, they thought that the sewing machine would eliminate tailors. When they came up with the printing press, they thought that the printing press would eliminate writers. Now we think that the accounting profession and other professions will be eliminated. No, you'll only become more efficient. But the question as to whether you become more efficient depends on the quality of training. And that is why training is critical. We are here in Mombasa, and in Mombasa they speak the Kiswahili language, and they say this in Kiswahili, samaki mkunji angali mbichi. If you want to bend fish, do so when it is still wet. And I'm suggesting that if you want to produce an ethical accountant, you start with training. It is that accountant that must be injected with the venom of doing right because it is right to do right. It is that young accountant that must be told that the duty of an accountant is not simply to be an examination passing machine. It is not simply to attend an annual general meeting because you are earning 20 CDP points. No. You have come here because it gives you the opportunity to interact with men and women who have seen it all, men and women who have experience, men and women who are capable of telling you these are the landmines that you must avoid so that your journey is shorter and more effective. It is the duty of the younger people in this room, therefore, to tell the younger accountant that you can transform institutions. The chair here is a teacher and a practitioner at once. The former chair, Madam Keto here, has traversed the continent of Africa. There are many seasoned accountants here. How are they influencing you? Remember, they say that it went wrong. No, it doesn't go wrong, it starts wrong. Remember also that the world only remembers those who finish, not just those who start. And always remind yourself, it's not how you start, but how you end. And that is why integrity is at the very heart of those who change and transform institutions. So that, ladies and gentlemen, on this 43rd gathering of accountants drawn from Kenya and different parts of the world, the critical question that we must pose to ourselves: what kind of influence do you want to make wherever you are? If you are an accountant in Kiambu County in Kenya, and you are serving the county government in Kiambu, how are your books being kept? Are they being kept with integrity? If you are from Kampala, Uganda, and you are serving a public organization, is the organization the better because you became a member? The president here is serving as the 26th chairperson or chairman of Icpak. It means that there were 25 other individuals before her, and as the saying goes, you are not successful until your successor succeeds. The question is, the organization that you are serving, are they dead when you have left, or dying, or in ICU? These are the questions, because if you want to influence and transform, we must talk of organizations when they are 100 years from today. There is an advert that I like. I don't consume their product, but I like it. Johnny Walker. working from 1800 and something, and still alive. Johnny Walker, the organization that runs it, must have had accountants. And those accountants must have been keeping their books well. That is why it started all the way in Scotland, and you are now consuming it gleefully. The question is, as accountants who are present here, how are you going to transform your organization? And when your organizations are not performing well, tell the world. You know, like all of us, I hate many things. But one of the things I hate most is an individual who, when he is within an organization, he is silent about all the wrong things. But when he gets out of the organization, he is singing like a parrot. They never did this. Why did you not tell us when you are there, when you are consuming? If you see anything wrong, the duty of an accountant is also to be a whistleblower. And whistleblowing sometimes means that you sacrifice your career in the short term. But history is consistent. That when you blow the whistle and you change societies, you will be remembered. The Tanzanians who are here will remember at one time the second president of Tanzania, Ali Hassan Mwinyi, resigned as a minister because there had been a prison escape. When he was being made the president, that is why some Tanzanians say, this is a man of integrity. But in Kenya, we say, I'll resign over my dead body. We must not allow your bodies to be dead before you do the right thing. We want you alive. So you accountants who are present here, as I draw to the conclusion of my submissions, I'm suggesting the following things. Number one, if you want to influence processes positively, you must be a man and a woman of courage. And when I talk courage, I'm not saying that you are reckless. You must be a speaker of the truth. You must be somebody who is diligent. You must be a master of detail and consistency, so that your enemies, known and unknown, are capable of saying, I don't like the man or the woman, but the man or woman does a damn good job. When that is what people say of you, then you can begin to be a positive influencer. You must transform, and you must be the architects of change. And architects must be people who are prepared to learn. You know, when I hear anybody says, I cannot learn, I cannot be advised, I say, behold a fool. Anybody who cannot learn, anybody who cannot be advised is a danger to his society. It is therefore important, and senior accountants like him here know, even in a partnerships meeting, a young graduate may point out a thing that changes the course of an organization. We must have a teachable spirit. Teachability is what makes one great. And that is why in Greek of old, they said of Socrates that he was the wisest of all men, because when the oracle of Apollo confronted him, he said, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. Because when you take that position, it means that you can learn everything. So you, my fellow accountants, I'm not a qualified accountant, but in my own small way, I can account for money in my pocket. To that extent, I'm an accountant. But you who are proper accountants, who are in charge of organization, go out there, be an influencer. Go out there and make sure that every organization you serve grows. Go out there and make sure that you transform society. And the best way of transforming society is to make sure that you have mentees. Replicate yourself. so that when you are in Kampala, Uganda, you have agents in Nairobi, Kenya, you have them in Botswana, you have them in South Africa, so that you can double yourself. And always remember one thing, and there is a book that I commend to you, Brian Daniel. Discipline is destiny. He or she who is not disciplined will get nowhere. And then I also ask all accountants to restrain your appetites. It is still true that being rich is not wanting more, but wanting less. So go out there and do what you must. Transform societies, transform the continent of Africa. She is waiting for you. God bless you.
Hey, Professor PLO Lumumba, I am not an orator. And after listening to you, I have completely made peace with that. So when I grow up, I want to be like you. Yeah, so you have handed us a verdict, not a keynote. To lead with influence, we must be courageous enough to speak the truth, diligent enough to earn the room, and consistent enough to be trusted, and humble enough to keep learning. You said something that Africa must change, and this change must come from us as accountants. And one thing also you mentioned that touched me was on regional integration. 19 years down the line, it is still a dream. And when I was listening, the word that I've picked so strongly that will remain in my heart and in my mind is that the issue of globalization. Are we pullers of the chairs, or are we the feast itself? We must be on that seat. We must make that decision, and we must be part of the transformation. So my dear CPAs here and online, let us transform or we become irrelevant, and let us always remember and ensure that integrity is still our North Star. So with those few remarks, I really want to appreciate you. As our tradition, we normally take questions, but I can see time is not on our side, so I'll help Mwakazi. I'll ask Mwakazi to help me with the Q&A. Maybe 2 questions from each venue or one. It's you to decide. You are the timekeeper, and our keynote speaker and our chief guest can take the questions up. Mwakazi, to you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. We're ready for questions. 1 question per venue. Let's quickly start with Pride in 1, Pride in 2. Be ready. And Sarova, let's also have a question. Just put up your hand and a microphone will be delivered. At the same time, you can scan the QR code that is on the screen and post your questions, comments, and takeaways. Pride in 1, are we ready? Sarova, are we ready? Just put up your hand. Pride in 1, Pride in 2. So let's have Pride in 1. All right, let's have. Thank you so much. Pride in 2. Please go ahead. 1 question, please.
with the accountants. And so this is a challenge that I'm giving the leaders, that how can we influence the training
Pride in one, over to you. One question. Sarova, just put up your hand. Over to you. You have the microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is CPA Jacob Jero, Tenjik and Associate Partner. My question is to all the CPAs. More often than not, I've joined the practicing field. And what I've noted with some experience is that whenever I walk in, I find most of the business owners are unhappy. And they are solving, sometimes they are unhappy, things are not working. But the person I meet and they won't get disappointed in the end of the day is the accountant or chief finance officer. So my question is, what happened to us as accountants? And the professor has put it very clearly that we are the architects. But truly speaking, we have a problem of integrity, that we try to make numbers read otherwise. Being a practitioner as a CISA, Certified Information System Auditor, this is a question now to the panelists. How do we help the accountant overcome the challenge of the change management in terms of technology? Because some of us, I happen to have trained in system audit, but majority are not savvy to these issues. You realize some figures end up being how they are because of the inherent risks which are in the system. So in as much as we are not supposed to be technical savvy, how are we able to overcome that? Because majority is perpetrated by the young generation or those people who have worked with the system for a long time and they know how to go around the system. And you as an accountant or the chief finance officer or otherwise, you're not able to do this, to know what is going on. And you go by the St. Peter's principle, which states that as we go the higher the ladder, we become more incompetent. And that's a reality. So how do we overcome that as an accountant? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Final question from the virtual platform. Several appreciations. I just like to, Professor PLO Lumumba has said, great charge to all of us as accountants. But CPA Fred has a question. He says, powerful presentation. Any experience from an incident that ever sent chills to you? Over to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for the questions. So it seems most of the questions were for PLO and a number were comments. So I'll allow him to respond to them. And if CPA Keto has anything to add as a wrap-up, you're free to do that.
I'll advert to the last question. In the last few years, I've been an accounting officer in quasi-governmental organizations. First, when I served the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, I served the Anti-Corruption Commission, then served the Kenya School of Law. And one of the things that I realized was how important your people in finance are. And every Friday, in all the organizations, I sat down with my accountants to get to know the numbers, to get to know what is happening with our accounts. But it also taught me one thing, that there are people who on a daily basis come to work to steal from the organization. And that if one is not careful as an accounting officer, you can easily find yourself in trouble. And those of you who are accountants, I am saying that it is critical that when you are serving your CEOs, disclose everything, even when they are arrogant. Some CEOs can be very arrogant, they think they know everything. It is important that we are in a position where we change organizations. And I say that very proudly because, for those of you who are Kenyans, when we were doing the Constitution Review Commission, we were the first and I think the last organization which ever returned money to Treasury. 500 million Kenya shillings in the year 2005. And it spoke to the quality of the accountants that we had, that nothing was compromised, but things ran in a proper way. I remember we came to this hotel in the year 2003, and we came by taxi from the airport. And when I had taken my taxi, the taxi man told me, how much do I write? I'd paid 1,000 shillings. And I said, you write a receipt for what I've paid. He grudgingly wrote 1,000. So the following week, in my office, a number of individuals came with receipts written 6,000. And I knew where they came from, and none of them were ever paid. So as an accountant, what I'm saying, that is also you have to have an investigating mind. Don't just rely on papers. You cannot, for example, somebody asks you, I've bought a biro pen for 1,000 shillings, and you know you last bought for your daughter or son the same thing at 100 shillings. And that, to me, speaks to the question of integrity. But remember, one of the most dangerous things, and I think somebody has spoken about it, if you look at the kind of theft that is going on in institutions, in banks, I think it happened to the Uganda Central Bank. It also happened to one of the major banks. They are young people, savvy. They know how to navigate the systems using technology, and before you know it, you have no money in your account. How do you accountants deal with that kind of environment? That is the environment in which you operate now, where things can be manipulated. And that, I think, is what speaks to continuous learning. Because when you are on a continuous learning path, then you would never, ever be surprised by this kind of shenanigans which are being perpetrated by your new professional. The truth now is, in quite a number of organizations and in the new world, it is not how moral you are, but how smart and savvy you are to avoid the systems. Be careful. These are also dangerous times for those of you who are in the accounting profession. But the greater the danger, the greater the glory. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor, and thank you for the questions. I'll just take the one that came from there about lifelong learning and the fear of the older to go for the learning, and then you have the young who have it. I retired about 3-4 years ago, and I think lifelong learning, once you are in the business, you are in institutions, you are in economies, it's important that you spare yourself the time to remain competent. It's very, very important, because it's only when you do that that you will be able to supervise the people below you. You need not get to that level of competence, extremely competent, no, but you can have something that can enable you to supervise. And you will not be threatened. You'll not be threatened by the young. So you'll be able to guide them and help them come up. When you sort of take the backbench early, and you do not help yourself change with a changing world, you end up being put on the side and feeling very inferior, and you will not manage to lead. So it's important that at whatever age, you continue with lifelong learning. You can have the shorter courses and the things in place. I mean, there are so many things on the internet. My advice is go ahead and try. Try your level best. You don't need to go for the deeper and deeper, but just have the basic, such that you can supervise the people that you boss, that you are leading. Also, it's very important, it's very, very important that our basic principle of ethics, we started when these kids join our institutions. You start talking about it, and you talk about it without fear. Because there is the fear. We fear to talk about corruption. We fear to talk about what Professor is talking about. There are thieves all over. Let's talk about it. When the young join your organizations, talk about it. I was well known for liking to work with the young because I knew that they were the future of the organizations that I was leading. And as time went on, I mean, now I'm extremely comfortable with the Office of the Auditor General and what is coming out of it. There are young men and women who I trained, their ethical levels, how they look at their country, how they view themselves, and their roles that they have in the country. I am completely satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the official opening. But before we do that, as our tradition, I want to really appreciate our speakers, PLO, Professor Lumumba, CPA Keto. Indeed, when you came, we are now not as we were. Your wisdom, your challenge has really made us different people. And to show our appreciation, which in no way can be quantified to what you've done, but it is a symbol of our appreciation for what you have done for us, for the challenge that you've given us, and integrity will always be at the back of our mind, which has always been, but we are emphasizing. So I'll call upon two of our distinguished members to come and present the gifts. I will call upon FCPA Ashif Kasim, who has been a former council member of the Institute, and he has done so much to the profession, and indeed we are standing on the pillars that they built. So please come in front. You'll award CPA Keto. And I'll also call my immediate former chairman, FCPA Philip Kakai. Please come and do the honors of presenting our gift of appreciation to Professor PLO Lumumba. Please, they'll come to the front. We'll start with CPA Keto, and we must capture that moment in style. So if the council members in this room, please come to the front. Okay, please, one at a time. Our cameraman, please hold on there. Council is coming. We must be in this photo.
Wow. A big round of applause, please. Excellent. Thank you so much. The greater the danger, the greater the glory.
So as a photo session, I'll also call the leaders of the PAOs in our region to just come. We grace this occasion by having a photo. And then Mwakazi, meanwhile, you can be guiding on what next after this session. But dear colleagues in the profession, online and physically, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for gracing this occasion. Thank you for making our chief guest and our keynote speaker speak to members who are members of integrity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Distinguished delegates, we are ready for our break. We'll have 15 minutes. Then we come back for a panel discussion before lunch. I'd kindly request Pride in. Please, delegates, be well guided. Here at Sarova, all the entrances will lead you to a serving spot. So we have plenty of serving points and all